Heather is going to guide our traveling clean eating journey. If you have not had the pleasure to meet Heather, she is a certified terrain advocate and she is finishing up another degree, getting even more information on holistic nutrition. We are so happy to have her with us. And if you at the end want more information about Heather, I love the name of your website, Heather. I just love it. And so if you want to search for her while we're just chit-chatting real quick, it's motherthestorm.com. That's pretty darn cool. And so without further ado, I'm going to pass the baton to Heather. But the quick reminder for all of us is that today, with this topic, we're pulling the lens out. We're looking at this from a very general perspective, primarily from the cancering journey. But I know some of you will be calling in that are not on the cancering journey. You are welcome as well. But we want to be mindful of Heather's time in that we can talk about some meals, right? But we don't want to get into individual needs per se. There is a place for that and it's desired, and I will make sure that you are fully connected with Heather by the end of the webinar. But today we're going to try to stay on topic. We think we do a pretty good job on traveling and how you do that well. I know it's a pain point of mine. I'm hoping that you all struggle a little bit too and that we can learn from Heather. So please, Heather, take it away.
Yeah, thank you all so much for joining. Thank you, Believe Big, for having me. It's an honor to be able to support any and all of you on your journey toward health for whatever reason that is. So, as Stacy mentioned, today we're going to be talking about traveling healthy. I have some food tips to help you out on your journeys near and far. Um, I like quotes. I pulled a little quote. So if you keep good food in your fridge, or in this case, in your cooler or your bag, you will eat good food, by Eric McAdams. And I just think that's so relevant when you travel. It's so hard when you're traveling because you're passing by so much good smelling food. So many things that just look good, the people in your car that want to eat. And if you're just prepared and ready to, eat the good things, then you will eat the good things. So just a quick little agenda. I do always like to go through the foundations of health because it's not always just about what we eat. It's about the things that are surrounding us. And when we're traveling, I think Dr. Nasha Winters has a quote, piss poor planning equals piss poor performance. So I think that in this case, it's just planning appropriately. Sorry for my vernacular there, but and
It's
then
to the
also
point.
it's to the point, and it is just
It
true.
works. It works. It
Yeah.
sticks.
Yep. And then I have some resources to help you guys do a little bit of research as you are going to new locations. So, as mentioned, these foundations of health, these are just so, so important as you are traveling, as you are just eating and living your life in general, that you are seeking that nutrient density in the food that you want. We're always looking for organic, whole foods. If you can get locally grown foods, that's the best. I recently heard on a podcast that foods, once they are removed from the ground, vegetables, produce, once removed from the ground from their climate or their environment, are losing 10% of their nutrients every day. And so finding a local farmer is really essential. And also then we want to do that 100% grass-fed meat, just always sourcing your food as high of quality as possible is really just essential in making sure that your body has all those vitamins, those minerals, those nutrients that it needs in order to function at optimal levels.
Heather, let's just take a quick pause here and talk
Of
about the
course.
fact that for our listeners who haven't necessarily joined us in the past, that
Mhm.
could you just give them a very brief what is happening right now with marketing of our meats and that grass-fed, grass-finished. Could you just give them a quick definition of that, please?
Yeah, of course. So there is a lot going on. As Stacy mentioned, in the supermarkets, you'll frequently see grass fed, but it's very important that you get something that's also grass finished. So some terms to look for are 100% grass fed. Another one is that grass fed, grass finished. But just something that's grass fed, that will frequently mean that it's been on a pasture for the first part of its life, and then they'll finish it with grain. And that's not what we want, right? Because the grains are what have all of those inflammatory properties. They imbalance the omegas in the meats so that they go from having a much higher degree of omega 6s. I can't remember what the actual percentage is, but when you're getting a meat that's raised 100% on grass, the density of omega-3s is significant compared to your meats that are not. Also, you want to look for the wild caught seafoods. Yeah, is there anything else I'm missing there,
No,
Stacy?
and the reason why I bring it up
Yeah.
is because I'm going to be the naysayer for the hour and share with you where the friction comes in with this topic. So,
Yeah.
as Heather just mentioned, knowing where we're sourcing our foods is super important. We're not,
Mhm.
we've done a topic on this before. You've done a great job in just explaining to us, but now you're saying, oh my goodness, like the other choices that we make, right? When we travel, this is a friction point for us, right? So we want to do well. We want to be able to make sure that we get in these nutrient dense foods. And oh, by the way, we're going to relocate ourselves somehow, some way. And now we've lost even more control. The reason why I bring up the friction is once we're aware of the friction, we can figure out the workaround. So I just wanted to make sure that our listeners truly understand that we get it. Not only are we recommending the grass-fed, grass-finished, we know it's hard to do that at home. How in the
So
heck do we do that away? We're going to get to that. So thanks for that, Heather. I just wanted to make sure our folks were on topic with this and understand that we're not asking you to be perfect. We're asking you to be aware,
yes,
right?
yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you for that, bringing that up, Stacey. I do think that's very important. And in our world, we just get so used to it, so definitely forced me to go into some detail on any of these topics. Sleep also, we know that when we're sleeping, we are resting and we are digesting. Our body is rebuilding, it's processing, it's doing all the things. And when you're traveling, it's dysregulated, especially if you're going to jump across a time zone, but even if you're just going in a car and you're staying somewhere else, right? And so just, I have just a little tip here. If you are flying to another country, getting a pair of high quality blue light blocking glasses. There's actually a doctor that I really like around this topic. And his name is Dr. Twyman, Twyman. He's got another name for his red light. It might be like Dr. Red Light or something really descriptive like that. But when you're flying to another country, flying with those red light or the red glasses, the blue light blocking glasses, maybe even putting a hood up over yourself can really sort of like trick your body into maintaining those circadian rhythms that you've established over the last, whatever period of time, since the last time change, we'll say. And it can really be a game changer for your body. Stress management flows right into that too. Again, traveling can be stressful. I think that it's one of those things where it's like traveling is fun, right? But you're out of your normal environment. Your body knows. Maybe you think, within your brain that you are, in a fun space, and that is true, certainly, but your body knows that it's not sleeping in the same bed, maybe, or that, right, you're in a hospital going to appointments, And that's stressful when you go into hospitals or clinics or whatever, your body's getting stuck. So just whatever you can do to really like zen yourself, bring headphones, bring a cozy blanket, a nice warm sweater, a nice book to read, a podcast to listen to, any of those things that really help you de-stress. I also like to travel with my pillow. I even have a teddy bear that I travel with, any of those items that can really sort of just help you manage your stress. Piggybacking on that, because these are all so cumulatively related, is that digestion piece. And so travel, again, can be so hard on your digestion. I don't know about you guys, but I have a tendency to get very constipated when I travel. And part of that is when you fly, being in that high altitude just really dehydrates your body. So really making sure, and we'll go into this in a little bit more detail, but really making sure that you're hydrating. I also really like to take a lot of magnesium glycinate before I travel. Certainly take it to bowel tolerance. So whatever, you're going to have to like work through that. But there's a Pure Encapsulations brand that I do like. I think that's really, yeah, something to consider. And then finally, along this is just really making sure that you're regulating your blood sugar. Try to stay away from, right, those sugary things. Try and really come back to that nutrient density and eating those foods that are going to be in that low glucose as much as possible. Stacey was just talking about her sourdough. Sourdough is a great alternative to white bread. It's got a significantly less glucose response than just straight up white bread. So that would be something to consider if you're going to make a sandwich. Okay. So then transitioning into our travel piece here. So what I've done is it's a continuum, right? There are small trips, there are epic trips, and then there's anywhere in between. And so I've kind of just broken this up a little bit to give us some tips for a small trip and give us some tips for some epic trips, and we can talk about anything that might be useful for something that would be somewhere in the middle. So I have just sort of a no matter where you're going. These are just universal tips for travel. I really think that it's important to prepare your body to travel. Whether you are just going to the clinic, whether you are going, for a car ride, even going to the zoo for a day, or going on a weekend trip to your parents' house, or taking that really long flight. Some of the things that I like to do would be eating soups. Soups are really easy for your body to digest, especially those high liquidy soups, high vegetable concentration soups. Um, Also drinking a lot of water, because I, for one, am constantly needing to use the restroom. And so I drink so much water. And then when I travel, I don't like to drink as much water because I'm having to stop and go to the bathroom at gross places, or on the side of the road, or whatever that may be. And so I really like to plan for even 2 days before my trip to drink just an extra like 32 or 64 ounces of water like per day, just to really give myself a boost before I go on that trip, where then I'll probably maybe chew some gum or something to sort of, help myself to not have to drink as much water. Given, right, there are a lot of things that we can do there. I also, if I'm getting ready to fly, I also really like to fast. Sometimes maybe the day before, sometimes the day of that I'm flying. It can be a really good way to support your body, And B, not have to travel with a whole bunch of food, right? It's sort of a good reason to kick off a fast. But what I will say is if you're traveling with family, kids, parents, and you're not an experienced faster, I don't think it's the time to fast. I also think that, if you are going to fast, definitely, like I was saying before, do not limit your liquids, right? When we're fasting, we're sort of getting our body toward ketosis if we aren't already there. And when you're making that transition into ketosis, your body's really just like dumping fluids. It's just dumping their magnesium and your potassium and your salts. And so you really need to replenish those. So that's just a word of caution there.
They have a really cool, sometimes when I travel, they have the bone broth sticks. Kettle Fire
Yes.
makes those. And I find that that kind of eases my mind just a little bit if you're going to be doing an idea like a fasting for travel, because you can always find a place. Now, the quality of water, here we go down the rabbit hole. But
Right.
at the same time, knowing that I'm sipping on something that is healthy and nourishing as opposed to, not to pick on my friends at Panera, but not the healthiest, right? And so
Yes.
those kinds of things I think are valuable to our that the marketing again has gotten pretty good. They want to appeal to folks like us that need all different solutions, and so that's a great one. The little sticks. I also, per your comment where I think you're going to, these hydration sticks, and then also on your website, I noticed some really healthy electrolyte recipes on your website,
I
which
do have an electrolyte
I
recipe on my
love
web.
those. I cannot wait to get after that, Heather. So
Yeah.
my point, I guess the reason why I'm steering the conversation a little bit is that it's the same thing that we say each and every month. There's never a wrong place to start, and then we just have to start. And so find what is appealing to you as Heather continues on. Some of this may be out of reach for you right now. Maybe it's not in your wheelhouse. Maybe you don't like bone broth. Maybe what we're saying is that think about these things so you don't get yourself into a position where you're frustrated while you're away, feeling like you're not doing something beneficial for your healing or taking care of yourself. There's all different layers to this, and I think being able to say, okay, well, if not this, then this, and if not this, then
Mhm.
this. We're just doing the best that we can. That's all she's saying,
Yep.
right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, Stacy. And I think too, if you are fasting, to your point around the bone broth, drinking warm liquids,
Mm,
is really satiating in a weird way.
yeah,
As well. And I think when I travel too, I think I have a tendency to be very cold in
yeah, yeah. Me
you know,
too.
either in the car with, the people in the car wanting it to be a little bit colder than me, or in an airport or an airplane, and so I think warm liquids are a really good way to
And yet
just,
another plug for Believe Big's Blue Saw scarves
oh,
for
love it.
traveling. I'm teasing. It's just like a nice big wide scarf. I use it for travel too. I'm with you. Always a little chilly. Just
Yeah,
preparation, right? Being able
preparation,
to be.
exactly.
Anyway,
Exactly. And progress over perfection.
amen to that.
Yep. All right. And snacks. I think it's always great to travel with snacks. These, I do have a lot of nuts and other sort of like constipating looking items in the photo. And so what I will say is really try to get some good veg in there. Really try to get, I even like to like take cauliflower, slice it really thin, and you can put, a little bit of cheese on top of that, over a cracker. But really making sure that you're getting that veg in there. Again, it's just easier on your body to digest. And which will ultimately improve your sleep as you're traveling and your stress management, all of those things. But, I think it's nice to have, a couple of nuts, some berries, some tomatoes, cucumbers, right? All of those things travel really well.
What's your top three if you were going to travel? And it can't be a fresh one right now because you'll get to that. But what is if someone said top three to travel with, that
You
you could take
know,
on a plane and that would sustain a little bit. So nuts are going to be
yeah.
one of them for sure, right?
Yeah, nuts are definitely one. I love a cucumber. I am really a big cucumber girl. And I also really like macadamia nuts.
Macadamia nuts.
Macadamia nuts are so satiating. They're super high in fat, pretty low in protein, depending on what kind of a diet you're following.
How do you feel
Pecan.
about the organic turkey jerky and the beef jerky? Cool with that? I mean, I know they're high in salt, but if they're not if they're not tremendously processed, I mean, there's a couple of them like Chomps is boasting that it's pretty healthy,
Yeah, and Paleo Valley has a pretty good option as well. They have some grass-fed meat sticks. They've got a couple of not great ingredients. But it's again progress over perfection, right? Like when we're traveling, we're taking things that, are maybe like a fun treat sometimes. And so, yeah, I do also believe in meat sticks, while traveling and even I don't eat a lot of cheese, but when I travel, cheese is kind of, a fun little treat to have. And so that can be fun too. And I just really make sure to like slice my cheese like very thin.
mm,
Again, with the quality conversation, looking for cheese that is made from milk that are from cows raised on grass.
yeah. When my brother was on his journey, one of the things that he really enjoyed, I was like, I find this so hard to believe that it's healthy, but um, was um, a healthy pork rind.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
thought that that was really interesting, and it was approved, by Remission Nutrition. And I
Yeah.
was curious. I mean, of course, the sourcing is everything, but it provided the crunch,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
healthier. So
We also occasionally indulge in pork rinds. I think that's a good one too to bring up. They can be a little tricky to travel with. They're
right,
really messy and greasy. Even the crumbs, if you get them on your shirt, they can really stain your shirt.
yeah,
Um, but they are, yeah, Epic makes a pretty good you
Epic
know,
is another good one. That's
quality,
great.
I guess. Yeah, of pork rinds. And I think with that one, I would just like look at the ingredients, of it because there are flavors as well. And sometimes those flavors can bring in some other
Yeah,
ingredients maybe don't necessarily want. And so, we like to get just the basic pork rind or the pork rind with pepper occasionally.
right.
And we'll dip it in something like mayo or sour cream,
Just knowing where that sourcing comes from. I guess my other big hack too is Vital Proteins puts out a lemon flavored collagen powder.
Ooh,
And
I haven't
so
tried
I,
that.
and they come in sticks too. So for
Oh.
me, just being mindful of getting appropriate protein in, and that Vital Protein also can work, not the lemon flavor, but like the vanilla or the chocolate flavor, in bringing along something like a purity coffee and then
Ooh,
adding a healthy creamer to it. So, I mean,
yeah,
this is like I told you before, Heather, this is like kind of my jam. I am convinced that when you travel, it's miserably challenging to stay in a lane where it's not so much like I can't or we can't let it up. It's more in like, I really am curious, how can we bring our healthy habits with us in a
yeah,
way that doesn't require us to look so odd from the rest of the group? Nobody likes somebody
yeah,
who's like, I'm sorry, I can't eat that. But I mean, ultimately, we're all responsible for our own health, right? And so we want to
yep,
be able to have choices. I think
yeah,
most places in the United States, you can find a place to go find a healthier choice, but like our
mhm,
hotels,
mhm,
it's just a lot. So I appreciate that. So what I heard you say was you're cool with the jerky.
mhm,
You love, if at all possible, to bring along a fresh organic vegetable.
yep,
Cheese is okay as long as we understand it's mostly supposed to be a flavoring and we need to know where the milk sourcing is coming
yep,
from, right?
yep.
Um, any other ones that you can think of off the top of your head that might be an easy grab and go?
I mean, I think just the nuts, like just to summarize sort of everything we were talking about there, I think nuts are just sort of an easy one, but nuts are one that you really have to be careful. Like, don't pack a lot, because if you pack a lot, in my experience, you will eat a lot.
Yeah.
I can take down a bag of nuts like nobody's business if I'm hungry.
All of a
So,
sudden you're to the bottom of the bag and you don't know how it got
yes.
there.
Yeah, exactly. So I
All
like to
right.
pack them in I like to get those little silicone Ziploc baggies, and I will pack, just a small handful in there.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. That's really
Yeah.
good. Okay, so before we move to the next topic, which is stay hydrated, we do
Mhm.
have a listener question and it's on the underneath this umbrella of stay hydrated. So I'm just going to give you the question, Heather, as you talk through it. Maybe we could address the question directly as you move through the information. So
Cool.
Marcy wants to know tips for lack of control over the water. And
Ah.
she's my near dear sister because I feel the pain. Is it just something that she's got to let go of control? She brings her own filtered water in a glass bottle everywhere, but she was not going to be able to travel with her Berkey to go on vacation. So
Yep.
she's asking, as you go through hydration, is there a travel water filter that you could recommend?
That's a really great question. I think Berkey makes a travel water filter. I also know Brita makes a travel water filter. I don't know how high of quality they are. I always just, I drink, like I said, I like to prepare my body. I like to drink a lot before I go. And then, depending on, how long you're going to be traveling for, it's tricky. My husband and I we lived in North Carolina for a long period of time. We go out to North Carolina for about a week or two every summer. And I have a good situation. He drives, and my daughter and I fly. And when he drives out, and I know this isn't an option for everybody, but he brings our Berkey with him. And so then we set it up in our Airbnb, or in our camper, depending on where we're staying. But I think, like preloading on liquids and then not depriving yourself while you're traveling, that can be a strategy. But, I also think, progress over perfection too. Drinking water is better than not drinking water, in my opinion. I'm sure somebody could challenge that. And I do think, is it LK? I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce it. Those water filters that you frequently see in
Yeah,
airports where you can fill your bottle. I think those are okay. I do frequently see that the filter statuses need replaced,
yeah,
but um, I think it's tricky, right? It's just tricky because, like we were saying too, it's nice to be able to get hot water, but how great is the Starbucks hot water, or,
it's
the Keurig
true.
coffee hot
It's
water?
true.
I don't know.
Our
It's not
newest Believe Big staff member had a comment.
great.
Clearly Filtered, the brand, has a filtered water bottle that's decent, and it can be found on Amazon. So, and I had mentioned this to one of our
Fabulous.
listeners ahead of time. Evelise, our founder, she just shared a new podcast episode on non-toxic home. And so there's some information about water on that podcast. And if you are a regular with Believe Big, you should have gotten an email on that. If not, that would be one of those things that Heather and I are happy to pass along to you. I'm going to go one bigger and say, Marcy, I feel your pain. This to me, water has become kind of a little bit of an obsession with me because I do believe something that is so integral to our health needs to be as clean as possible. And you just don't know when you leave the Berkey filter at home, right?
Mm.
And we know plastic's not good for us. And so doing your research, another place that I would recommend is REI has a lot of different water bottle options that maybe there's that filtration in there. Do your homework. And then I say run it against I'm not being funny, the filter of EWG. Look up and, find these top rated. I don't think it's going to be challenging to find it, but remember, people are evaluating clean water sources on a couple of different metrics. For me, putting my zip code into EWG, finding out what the contaminants are, is where my energy is. Then
Mhm.
I would take it up a notch and say, like, the bougie version of that is like a hydrogen water. Can I enhance my water? Then these
Mhm.
other filtration systems can make the water alkaline, as opposed more alkaline instead of a. So I do understand that there is a bit of a learning curve. And as we always say on the show, the answer is always going to be, it depends. We're not all the same. We're not all on the same journey. And you have to find what works for you, what you feel comfortable. My metrics happen to be, I want all the bad stuff out.
Mhm.
I am a little loose on the other stuff, right? I just don't want things in my water that shouldn't be there. For
Yeah.
you all, maybe an alkaline water or a hydrogen water is a part of your protocol that you want to put in place. But Heather, to Heather's point, let's start with the obvious, which is get your water in. Find a way to hydrate. That's so important to every cell in your body. And then start layering up from there. You don't have
Yeah.
to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. But I will do some additional research for us, and I will find a single filtration water bottle and give you guys some choices in the replay.
Love it. Um, I also want to throw in there really quickly the Element brand, the LMNT brand. They make they have several lines of their like chocolate flavors, which are kind of fun, through the winter or really even all year round. But you can take those with you and get a hot water from Starbucks if you want. You can add a little bit of cream to that, depending again on how picky you're going to be, because Starbucks definitely does not source their cream well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they do have almond milk, and I don't know if they have coconut milk. I know they have oat milk. I won't recommend that. Their almond milk, I believe their almond milk has sugar in it. Maybe there are, different options at different Starbucks, but anyway, something to consider.
You know
Uh,
my hack there, Heather,
um,
right? That I shared, I think I shared it with you last time. You go to Starbucks and you get the venti cup filled with ice and you ask for a double shot of their espresso, plain, right? Even though that's
uh-huh.
not the healthiest source coffee, like little espresso shot. And then they're selling the koi protein shake. So I don't know if you've heard of that brand. It's a plant-based protein shake.
No.
There's a very small amount of sugar in it. Again, this is like the treat,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
is 20 grams of plant-based protein and I think
Oh,
like
wow.
3 grams of sugar. And you just add that protein shake, either vanilla or chocolate, and you've got one of their dessert drinks without all the mess, without all the sugar, without all the
Look at
calories.
that.
So that's a really awesome hack. And I find it hard to believe in the United States you can't find a Starbucks. So that's in my opinion, that's a sweet treat that delivers. It just hits. It's 20 grams of protein. It's you got the caffeine,
Yeah.
So
Beautiful.
yeah,
That's a
just a
great
little one.
one. Awesome. All right. I guess I'll transition to the maintaining the Zen. Because just really right when we're traveling, it's hard. So just again, like come back to those foundations. Try to think of things, that help you manage your stress while you're on the go, specifically while you're eating, because when you're eating, your body is going into digestion mode. And a significant part of your digestion happens in your brain, then your mouth, then down to your stomach. So if you think about just, taking a few deep breaths before you start eating, pull over, try not to eat while you're driving, find a quiet location in the clinic or in the airport. Maybe this is where you have a blanket that you've brought along that you can lay out for yourself to sit on. Maybe if you're alone, you can put in your headphones, listen to that podcast, some music. But just really try and, take your time, make eating, a fun part of the experience, and try to, again, just really, bring down your energy, and just really think about your body during that time and what your body is supporting you through. I think so frequently, right, we're just in our head and we're excited and we want to get there, or, whatever the thing may be. And so just really taking that time to honor your body, nourish your body, love your body, and, eat your delicious food that you've packed.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay. So next up is planning a small trip. So I have two slides here, one for a small trip and then one for an epic trip, and then some resources for you guys. So obviously, this is going to be like your day trip in the car. My daughter is 10. We like to go to the zoo. It's a couple of hours away. Or go to Legoland or, things like that. So, um, I am also on my own cancering journey. I have appointments all of the time. I go down to a clinic about 45 minutes away to do high dose IV vitamin C twice a week. I'm taking an enormous amount of liquid to that appointment. If any of you do high dose IV vitamin C, you get so thirsty when you're doing that. And it's just it can be just as hard, honestly, to plan for a small trip as it can be to plan for like a larger trip. So I really like to take time to plan my meal. How long am I going to be gone for? How many people are coming along? And really pack that up. So one thing is just, trying to think of like those robust foods that really travel well, right? Like I like to travel with a lot of veg. And so I'm not going to pick a wimpy, leaf lettuce. I'm going to pick something that's like a kale, that I can really dress up nice and it's going to hold, in the container with its dressing and even the vinegars or whatever that is. If you don't like kale, a nice little hack that you can do there is maybe you just travel with like a couple slices of lemon. And maybe you have a little container of olive oil that you can kind of then dress it up when you get there, or you can also bring along your dressing. It just can get right, it can get messy. So I like to just keep everything consolidated into one thing. I also really like to pre-log my food. I think, depending on where we're going or what we're doing, that just really helps me stay on track, and helps me avoid, having a cheat. So I personally use Chronometer. There are obviously a lot of different tools. MyFitnessPal, I know, is another really big one there, but those are just some little strategies that I use. And I do like to get, like a full meal in there, with some kind of a protein, like I said, a lot of veg, and a lot of fat as well. So I do personally also follow a ketogenic sort of diet, right? I do like to preface that by saying like keto is more of a state of a body rather than like the food that you consume. So I follow a very clean, very green keto diet that is really mostly plant-based with a fairly low protein, but a very high fat.
Mm.
So I think also, right, like as we're doing these things, we really just need the gear to do it right. And one cooler that we have had for several years, we actually each person, well, there's three of us, my husband, my daughter, and I, and we each have one of these coolers. My husband and I have had ours for probably 12 years. And then I got my daughter, hers is this model. She was like, she saw my presentation this morning. She's like, "Did you just take a picture of my cooler?" But anyway, there are a lot of different ones. This one's convenient because it's soft-sided, so it's not that rigid thing that's a little bit hard to pack, but you can put a lot of food in it. And we have the glass Pyrex containers, and so you can stack them in there. You can put two big ones in there, and then you can even put a mason jar right next to it. And we have some little ice things that we have in our freezer that also fit in there really nicely. So I don't like, obviously, you can't put those those glass jars on their side. I mean, for as, leak proof as they are, I feel like they always leak. So finding something that's got this also has like a nice sort of like plastic. Of course, we don't like plastic, but you can wipe it out and it's very robust. So that's one. I just wanted to give you guys a good recommendation. We also have a backpack cooler, and we use that when we go to the zoo, because then we can just sort of like pack all our stuff, put it on our back, and they don't care at our particular zoo anyway. If we bring food in, there are certainly some places that would care about that. And then we do of course have like a small hard-sided cooler that's more for like a 2-day trip, I feel like, than a day trip, but depending on what we're gonna do, or how hot it is too, right? Like come summer, you kind of need that hard-sided situation. We live in Missouri, so it can get real hot down here. Um, but just take your personal considerations, the number of people that you're traveling with, etc., into consideration there. Containers are a really big thing. I really also like thermoses, especially in the winter. If I'm going to go to the clinic, I will just take my bone broth in a thermos. My daughter really likes thermoses this time of year too, to pack. She really likes these little pizza rolls that I make right now. And so we'll put those in there. She also likes a tomato soup. It's really nice for her at lunchtime to just have like something warm, and she doesn't have access to a microwave. So they can be so convenient for stuff like that. And they can also be used in the reverse if you want to keep something really cold. So, another one is those silicone Ziploc bags. There are so many different brands now, but I also really like those. I do pack my daughter's lunch every day, and so we kind of have a lot of stuff in the house for that. But the silicone Ziploc bags, like I think they're good for the environment. They're actually very easy to wash. They don't wash well in the dishwasher, but they do just wash up really nicely by hand. Glass Tupperware is also great. Mason jars are wonderful. You can pack so much stuff into a mason jar. And in certain situations, I know they're plastic, but reusing those to-go containers can be so convenient. And this is where it's about trade-offs too, right? I'm not going to put something in there that I'm going to heat up in the microwave. Definitely no. But I will put like, some a big salad in there, or just some vegetables in there, or a whole meal in there that I don't have to heat up. And I do it when glass containers are heavy. Especially those Pyrex containers can be so heavy. So when we go to the zoo specifically, or somewhere like that where we're walking around, it's sort of like once we eat our food, we can throw the container away. And then we're not carrying it around for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
It can also be really nice, and I'll bring it up again when we're traveling by plane for really the same reason, that you don't necessarily want to have all of those containers with you that weigh so much. And then, then when you're done, you have this dirty container, that you're obviously not going to throw away your super expensive, nice glass container. Um,
One that I love too is, have you seen I think it's Marconi brand. I like to travel with 100% olive oil. So if I can't do all those containers, let's say we're about a dressing,
yeah.
right? That my trade-off is I'll ask for lemon, and then I'll
Yeah.
use the good sourced olive oil,
Yeah.
and then use that as my salad dressing. That's another really great one that would work well with the containers. I'm a mason jar lover, but man, they're a pain after you're done.
They really are, unfortunately. There are a lot of new lids for them too
Yeah.
lately. We recently got some, they're stainless steel. I don't think they're super high quality stainless steel. Like I wouldn't put something really acidic
Right.
in there, that's gonna kind of cause your stainless steel to leach into your food,
Yeah.
but they are watertight. They have a little silicone ring at the top, and yeah, I have a nice big leather tote, and I'll even put a mason jar with water in my leather tote because they are just so
Yeah.
watertight.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, the olive oil is a really good hack too, because, uh, yeah, one of the worst things you can get at restaurants, is sort of outside of, right, like it's not organic, it's probably not grass-fed, but those dressings that they have really have a lot of dirty ingredients in them. And so that's a really good one to bring up, Stacy.
Yeah, yeah. Just finding ways that you might not be able to get it 100%, but
Yep,
how can you chip away at some of the options? And
yep,
traveling with olive oil, and it's like a ketchup container, you know what I mean? Those little side packets. So it's no big deal. And you're not going
yeah,
to have to worry about them, busting open and whatnot. I think that's a great one.
yeah. Awesome.
Good suggestions.
Yes.
How about supplies?
Yeah, supplies. So I think traveling, if you have like some cheese or meat sticks, or, if you haven't pre-cut, your food, your chicken or whatever it is, maybe traveling with a knife with a cover, some utensils possibly to eat with. I feel like I always need more salt specifically. So I do frequently bring salt along as well. Obviously, napkins and this the blanket that I was mentioning earlier too is really nice to have, whether you're cold or you need to maybe lay it down on the ground. I would maybe have two different blankets for that because I'm a little bit of a nut about things like that. But I think it is nice to just have some of those supplies too.
Excellent.
Awesome. And so then planning an epic trip. So this is, something where you're going like a long ways away, maybe 1 to 2 weeks via plane. I'm kind of, orienting this around sort of like flying, because it can be really nice to, get your food organized like for your plane ride, the time when you're in the airport. But then also, once you reach your destination, this isn't going to be a situation where you can bring a whole bunch of food with you, probably. But one really good tip here is don't use your personal bag space. And this is where you would maybe, not have a cooler either, right? So, um, getting a Starbucks bag before you travel can be a really nice hack for this, because it's going to look like you purchased it at the airport and you can fit quite a bit of stuff in your little Starbucks bag, but the flight attendants aren't going to give you a hard time for it and
I
count
think
it
that
against.
this is the best hack I've ever heard, Heather.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Voices across, I mean, ears across America are like, ah, brilliant.
Yeah, it's a good one. So I think that, yeah, this is a game changer. Because also, right, like you're not going to get your bag dirty, or whatever you have in your bag dirty. So yeah, I think this is a really good one.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think a charcuterie board. So traditionally, charcuterie boards are going to be really heavy on those processed meats and cheeses and all of those things. And even the picture that I have is very representative of those things. But you can get a lot of stable veg into a charcuterie board and mix it up. Like I was saying before, you can put a little bit of cheese or a little bit of a meat stick or whatever onto a cucumber, or onto a thinly sliced piece of broccoli or cauliflower or whatever that may be. And you can really mix this up and put in, some blueberries, maybe some black raspberries, or even raspberries or strawberries or apples, depending on what kind of a meal plan you follow. Like I said, I am a little bit keto over here. Um, and then depending on where you're flying to, I have a little note down here at the bottom. When you're flying into places like Europe, they won't let you bring your food into the country. So just, making sure that you're packing this and planning, so that you can have it gone basically and throw your container away by the time you get there. So just, do your research on wherever you're traveling to, but that's just a word of caution. Third here is just really to choose solid foods, right? Like even nut butters, this is where you wouldn't be able to travel with your olive oils or things like that, but you would be able to travel with maybe a slice of lemon, and And if you are going to do your nut butters or whatever it is, you can actually put it on your celery or whatever it is, and it's not going to count against you. Um, and also, again, like I said previously when going to the clinic, really, if you're going to make a salad, I do, and you need to pre-dress it or you want to pre-dress it, just really, of course, look for those more robust greens that are going to prevent that gross wilting that you get when you put the dressing on. And then also, I just am putting a little note here that hard-boiled eggs and canned fish, they are so convenient to travel with. They can be really stinky. So just depending on, how how worried you are about your neighbors, when you're flying or traveling, you could avoid those. Or if you don't care, I'm not sure I care, especially about eggs. Tuna, maybe, but just something to think about. Finally, here, the research, right? So it can just be so important to look for not only restaurants, but also grocery stores. We were talking about water, right? Like water is something where you want to be able to get something that's in a glass bottle. And not all grocery stores are going to carry those higher quality, like mountain spring waters that you want. And so, doing your research before you go on those restaurants, on those grocery stores, and even planning, where you're going to stay or even the location that you're going to go to, overall, based off of the places that do have those resources that you want. And then another thing, my husband and I, when we travel, we always have a full kitchen, right? Like we're going to cook everything once we get there. So we are always going to a place that's going to have a full kitchen. And there are even a couple of hotels. We stayed at one recently, and I can't remember what it was called, Staybridge, where it had a dishwasher. It was a really small, it was almost just like a little studio apartment. But it had a little hot plate and a dishwasher, and then it had all of the dishes and everything. So really look through if you're going to get an Airbnb or Verbo or wherever you're staying to see how their kitchen is stocked, because that's some stuff too. You'd maybe be able to pack a few extras, for those like indispensable cooking items that we know we all have. So
Awesome. Heather,
awesome.
amazing. I'm still stuck on the Starbucks bag.
You're hilarious.
We have
Yeah.
about 4 minutes, and I want to leave enough
Awesome.
time for you to go through a couple of those um,
Yeah.
research resources in case folks want to take a screenshot of this.
Yeah. Yeah. So this healthy anywhere food and dining, this is one Stacy turned me on to when we were getting ready for this presentation. It's a newer one. It does definitely have more options in bigger cities. I mean, there's just more options in bigger cities, period. But um you can search in a big city. I live close to St. Louis, so I search St. Louis, and you can put in like organic and local, greens, wild meat. There's a ton of options that you can filter by. And then it even provides menu suggestions for you. So that's a really fun one to experiment with. Another one is seed oil scout. So if you guys haven't gotten on the seed oil bandwagon, I highly recommend it. It is Seed oils are particularly inflammatory. Those are going to be all of those canola oils, vegetable oils, right? Like all of the gross oils. They are, did I already say they're very inflammatory? And seed oil scout, again, you can put in your city, your zip code, whatever, and it allows you to really quickly see on a map which restaurants are using seed oils and which aren't. I do recommend looking through the comments on there because I don't think it's a bulletproof situation. And that's probably the situation with Healthy Anywhere food and dining. I think they are frequently like a community sourced app. And so they aren't bulletproof. But another little note here, which is just a little hack, you can also always ask for your food to be cooked in butter or possibly avocado oil if the restaurant has it on staff. If I go out for breakfast, again, you're not going to get your high quality ingredients, but, at a minimum, you can have them cook it in butter.
Yeah.
And then if you're going to a new grocery store, I think Yucca is a really good one too. This one is really nice to be able to just quickly like scan. You can scan barcodes, not only on food, but also on, any of the body products that you may want to use. So,
Yeah. Think
um,
Dirty is another one that's pretty popular. Think Dirty,
yeah,
that app.
that is
I
a good
think, like
one.
like I said, I think our choices are getting better, but yeah, and again, it goes down to like that Healthy Anywhere. Does it have every single restaurant? No, it does not. But it kind of
Yeah.
gives you an idea if you're going to land there, what your
Yep.
options, could possibly be.
Yep.
So, Heather, the hour
Yes.
went by so fast, as always. I just really love this topic. I think it is so on point with what we're trying to do, and it's not just a situational clean eating environment. I think knowing all the different sources, no matter where we are, and just trying just to do maybe 1% better. Again,
Yeah.
I'm always quite sensitive to the fact that being on the journey with my brother and also my mother, this is such an overwhelming topic. And I can only speak to it from somebody who watched. And I think nutrition is powerful and as wonderfully healing as it can be. It's the one area in this journey that I think causes a tremendous amount of stress. And I heard you loud and clear. We don't want that either. So
Yeah.
I'm going to end and say this, that if you are on the journey, either cancering journey or just wanting to do a little better for your health, Heather is available. I will make sure that you get her contact information. If you want to get in touch with her directly, Mother the Storm, it would be where you could fill out that form to get a hold of her. And if you want to have her email address, I'll give her a shot to give that email address in just a moment. But before I do that, I just wanted to say, as always, we are incredibly grateful. We know how much information is out there, and the fact that you chose to spend an hour with us, we don't take that lightly. And on behalf of Heather and I, we just want to say thank you, that we love you. On behalf of Danielle, who helped us get set up, and Kristen for chiming in, and Wendy, of course, for being such a great support. We're just grateful for our staff, and then also you all that keep showing up month after month. Heather, what is your email address?
Yeah. It's motherthestorm@gmail.com.
motherthestorm@gmail.com. Marcy said
Mm-hmm.
to say thank you to you. She's one of the listeners. She's going on her first vacation that she has not gone on in a very long time, and she is
Oh,
very,
wonderful.
very excited to get some of these resources in play. And I guarantee you, Marcy's going to have a Starbucks card, not a
I
card,
love
a
it.
bag. If
Yes.
there's anything else, you know where to find me. It's Stacy@believebig.org. Again, we love you and we're praying for you, and continued best wishes on your healing journeys.
Thank you all so much. So grateful.